of Israel, out of jealousy for his brothers, was sold into slavery. He goes to Egypt, and there in slavery he attracts the attention of the Pharaoh. Pharaoh is amazed by this young man's ability to interpret dreams. He raises him up high with great esteem and becomes the most important man in all of Egypt. When the famine comes that he predicted would come, the drought, his brothers show up in Egypt looking for help. They encounter their brother sitting high upon a throne. The Pharaoh gives him. He does not deal eventually with them, but after he helps them understand what they have done, he embraces them and brings them all to Egypt to live. This house of Israel, these sons of their father Israel, multiply greatly and become very important in Egypt. But there, of course, they're so successful, the Egyptians start to be jealous of them, question who are they to be so successful. In our country, they suppress them in their state. That's pretty bad. The circumstance they're in now is worse than that. But it's a circumstance that they brought upon themselves. It is by their own very choice, by their actions, by their neglect, that they are in the circumstance that they're in. Their city in Jerusalem has been destroyed. Their temple has been pulled down. The intellectuals, the heads of government, the heads of religion, the wealthy, the successful, have been captured and brought to Babylon in exile. For all intents and purposes, the nation of his father Israel is destroyed. Even for themselves, they realize that they have messed up so badly that they have probably lost everything that God had promised them, that God had given them. And they are in great despair as a people divided. But God does not give up on his people. He sends to them the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel is sent to them to help rebuild the house of Israel. Ezekiel is sent to them very clearly, given a job. I appoint you watchmen for the house of Israel. I appoint you to be the one who will go to them and to remind them of my commandments. Remind them of the great order that I have established and invited them into. I ordered him to go and be for them one who will point out their sins, not to make them feel less human, not to scold or punish them because they have been punished already, but to bring them home, to rebuild my house, to rebuild my dwelling place in the world, not so much the temple in Jerusalem, but my people, where I live, where I dwell in the world. For they have lost their way, because they have found in themselves what they thought was good enough. But they found in themselves, they thought was strength, that they can do it on their own, and they can enter into things that are contrary to my laws, contrary to my way, and think that they would be able to live with that. And with them they have found death. They have exiled themselves so they no longer have any meaning to the world around them, where I wanted them to be the light to the nations, the light of my mercy and my love. For my commandments are built on mercy and love, nothing else. One thing we know to be sure, our God asks nothing of us that brings vengeance upon our sin. He could have destroyed and taken Adam and Eve and redid it all, but he didn't. He let them have what they chose. He let them have the barriers to the world. sweat of toil upon their brow. He let them have what they chose. He did not leave them. Our church, institutionally, is really no better off than the house of Israel at that time. Yes, it may seem to have the structures that seem that all things are in place, but they're not. Our brothers and sisters in this world suffer just to remain faithful to Jesus Christ in His church, and they see the destruction of their temples, not because of their sins, but because of the arrogance of those who believe or do not believe. There are those in this world who look upon us as they looked upon the house of Israel and say, you don't need anything anymore. Therefore, we'll put you in exile. The world is putting us into exile. It's just like the Babylonians. They're not being carrying us off and separating us and making us slaves. They are, in some respects, slaves to their ideology, slaves to their ways of thinking, slaves to their decision of what the commandments of God should be. Because they think, so we're modern. We're much more educated than those people years ago. We know better. I know better than you. The arrogance of mankind. And we think that we can run it by ourselves. They don't exile us to the land, they exile us to a ghetto. A ghetto where we can live by ourselves, do whatever we want by ourselves, but don't impose anything of what we are upon them. They say it's because we are left behind, but they do it because they are guilty. They feel guilty. They don't want anyone to point out. Their choices in life do not lead to freedom, but to slavery, but they'll deny even that. Jesus in the gospel today commands us to deal with one another's sins honestly. First and foremost, understanding that Paul says in the second reading to the Romans, please, brothers and sisters, the commandments of God are there to make us whole. They're based upon love. I'm not asking you to not do the things of the Ten Commandments because this way I can control you. No, this is the way that you will be able to live in justice and in freedom. This is the way that humanity will have its equal rights. This is the way man and woman will be equally respected. This is the way no matter who or what you encounter in life, you will be victors. And no matter what you may choose to do or not do according to my commandments, the end will not destroy you, because your brothers and sisters will be there to save you. Ezekiel speaks to us again. Wake up, the house of Israel. We are not the direct descendants of the Noah. But remember that. You said in the whole way earlier. Very clearly, you hear what I said to God? Who graciously upon your sons and daughters, those redeemed, and those who grant adoption. We've been adopted by the house of Israel. We've been tied to them by the blood of Christ, not by our DNA. He chose the DNA. That's the house of Israel. That's our first brothers and sisters. But for us who believe in Christ, that we receive true freedom. He's asking us again to trust Him, His ways, His commandments. What He asks of us. And we do so that we can raise each other up. So even if the world puts us in a ghetto and separates us all from them, we will be in that ghetto together, in unity, with one faith, one Lord, one baptism, to be able to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple, to show to the world that no matter how much they would screw up, God would never screw up. God would never abandon them. Remember who saved Israel? It was a foreign king who looked upon them and said,